You've probably heard me speak more times than you really wanted to, literally blinding you with science. What I would like eventually to teach all of you, this is a complicated product that you're representing, and the science behind it is complicated. Nobody knows that better than me. I think every one of you can do justice to presenting this product, Protandim, for what it is scientifically. So I'm going to review all 7 of the publications upon which this science rests and upon which this product rests, from the first one in 2006 to the 7th one earlier this year. I get many requests from distributors saying, I encountered, maybe it's a physician, maybe it's somebody who is knowledgeable in science, and I tried to tell them about Protandim, and they took a quick look at the science, and they said, well, this is all done in cells, or this is all done in mice. Well, I want you to know exactly what each paper was done in. Probably the most important paper was done in cells, in tissue culture, human cells, by the way. But one of the papers, the very first one, was a human clinical trial. It wasn't done in mice or rats or cells. It was done in living humans. Several of the other extremely important papers were done in animals, and I want you to know what the message is from each of those. I'm going to begin with kind of a review of what oxidative stress is, and we now know Protandim does more than just deal with oxidative stress. It involves not just superoxide dismutase and catalase, the first 2 enzymes we focused on. We now know that Protandim modulates more than 600 genes. In fact, at higher doses, not used in humans, as many as 4,000 genes can be affected out of a total of 25,000 genes that we have. This is not a minor little tweak. This is a major readjustment of everything that makes you who you are and what you are. So let's begin by looking at this question. What is oxidative stress? Where do oxidants and free radicals come from? And why should we worry about oxidative stress? It happens to everybody as you get older. Maybe it's just a part of life that we can't do anything about. Well, this is the number of papers published in the peer-reviewed scientific literature since about 1960, when there were essentially 0. And in 1970, there were about 3 or 4, because superoxide dismutase had been discovered. And we began to talk about what is oxidative stress. It's now been 41 years since that discovery, and the total number of papers now available in the medical literature is more than 86,000. And you can see the growth rate of these papers, and that should be kind of reminiscent of what Carrie just showed you, because this company is taking a similar exponential growth pattern. And this is the science that underlies everything that we stand for and everything that this product was designed for. The bottom line here is that scientists do worry about oxidative stress. This is a big slice, a significant slice of the total scientific endeavors going on in this country and around the world. So this is not minimal. This is not something tucked away in one corner. This is mainstream. What is oxidative stress from a cellular point of view? Every cell in your body contains these little structures known as mitochondria. They're the engines that burn our food and create the energy that drives everything we are and everything that we do. It drives the thoughts that you think in your brain. It drives the muscles that enable you to walk and run. And in principle, the mitochondrion is not very different from the internal combustion engine that drives your automobile. It takes in food, in its case, gasoline. It takes in oxygen. It burns that fuel and it produces energy in a useful form. One of the things that mitochondria have in common with internal combustion engines is that they are not 100% efficient. They're byproducts. Ideally, we'd like for all of that fuel to appear as water vapor and carbon dioxide, and in a perfectly designed engine, that would be the case. We haven't built a perfectly designed engine yet. Your car produces all kinds of byproducts, and your cells produce some of the very same byproducts. Specifically, one of them is this free radical, the superoxide radical. It's called superoxide because it's like oxygen, only it's super. Oxygen is what supports the combustion process. This is even more reactive than oxygen. It's really superoxygen. It's a very potent oxidizing species. It's toxic to cells. It's toxic to the parts of your car that produce it. Your cars have catalytic converters to deal with this toxic byproduct, and your cells also have catalytic converters. Those catalytic converters are called enzymes. They're called, in some cases, antioxidant enzymes, such as superoxide dismutase and catalase. They serve exactly the same function as catalytic converters on your automobiles. What happens if you don't scavenge, take care of, convert these reactive products? They can do a number of very damaging things to biological systems. They can oxidize proteins, and the example I've shown here is an antioxidant enzyme itself called PON1, protects against atherosclerosis. Very important enzyme. It's inactivated by oxidative stress. And so if you have high levels of oxidative stress, the levels of PON1 circulating in your plasma go down. They go down in many, many diseases, in rheumatoid arthritis, in multiple sclerosis, in diabetics, in patients with autoimmune diseases. It's a marker of what's going wrong in this system within your body. Too many oxidants are being produced. They're damaging proteins and enzymes. They can also damage fat, lipid molecules. And when that happens, it produces something you've probably heard about, TBARS. TBARS is an acronym, but it measures oxidized polyunsaturated fatty acids. Polyunsaturated fatty acids are not bad. They're essential for life. Every food you eat has some polyunsaturated fatty acids. You use it to synthesize your own cell membranes. But this free radical can damage that biological family of molecules as well. So it can damage proteins, can damage lipids, can also damage DNA. Another category of biological molecules, and everybody knows DNA is important. That's what constitutes your genes. It's what makes each of us different. It's what gives your children characteristics that they inherited from you. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but that's the way that goes. The same free radical can damage DNA. Again, not a good thing. So here's a third category of biological molecules that can be damaged by DNA. Damaged DNA is called mutated DNA. And the right mutations in the right genes can lead to cancer, one of the biggest health problems we face. Again, the result of free radical attack on our DNA. And the free radicals can also signal events in our bodies. Some of these are not always damaging, and in the right place at the right time, they're good. Fibrosis is formation of scar tissue. So if you cut yourself, you want that wound to heal as quickly as possible. And fibrosis helps that to come about. However, if your heart becomes fibrotic, it's medically known as heart failure. The pump quits working at its normal output. Apoptosis is actually programmed cell death. It's a way by which cells can die. At times, that's good. When you're an embryo, this process of apoptosis actually is what carves out your fingers from what looks originally like mittens. So apoptosis is not a bad thing in the right place. But if the cells in your heart undergo apoptosis, it's not a good thing. The cells in your brain undergo apoptosis, and you may be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. So all of these things require balance. Some of them are universally bad, some are bad only when the amount is incorrect. This slide was the result of work that took place throughout that previous graph that I showed you in the last 40 years. And so this was pretty much in place well before Protandim came along. We knew all of this happened. We knew what free radicals do that damages our bodies.